Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our press briefing where we're going to be talking about Child Welfare Workforce Month and how the state is working to take care of the kids here in Nebraska. We have a great place here in Nebraska to raise kids. Now, obviously, I'm biased because I grew up here, but you think about the great communities we have, the great activities we have, the schools, everything about being a child in Nebraska is fantastic. And we want to make sure that every child has that opportunity. Now, you don't just have to take my word for it, though. We can see that we get ranked very highly in different surveys. So, for example, the Annie Casey Foundation has their Kids Count data book every year. And for the last 3 years in a row, Nebraska has finished in the top 10. In fact, we have improved in 13 of the 16 categories, and we're above average in 14 of the 16 categories in that. And we're ranked number 8th overall this year, but number 1 in children's economic well-being. And I think one of the reasons for that is because we have historically low unemployment rates, and when families have opportunities for jobs, it makes sense that kids are taken care of. So that's a fantastic part about being here in Nebraska. But we also know that the pandemic has had an impact on kids. And I want to thank our educators who have done such a great job in helping kids in Nebraska get educated. Obviously, we spent some time out of the classroom, and I know that there were times when educators had to do two courseworks, one for the kids in the classrooms and one for the kids who are being remote. And we know that now that kids actually learn better in classrooms, and Nebraska did a great job of keeping kids in classrooms. We were the number 6 best state for kids in classrooms. We also know that kids in classrooms have better physical and mental health. So again, overall, that is great for our kids, that kids were in classrooms in Nebraska. And again, need to thank all of our educators for helping make that happen. So that's a big deal. We also know that overall, we came out ranked number 1. Oh, Paul just walked in. Now I got to start my whole program all over again. I'm just talking about all the great stats. Paul, we'll just send you an email with that. Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, but Paul, you're late. Come on, we just start on time around here. Politico ranked Nebraska the number 1 best state for overall pandemic response, and in that they assessed several categories, including education, and we came out ranked 4th best because, relatively speaking, we had little learning loss here relative to other states. So again, great tribute to our educators and what they've done here. But again, we know with the pandemic that it had an impact on families. We saw that we had 29% increase in child welfare cases here in the state of Nebraska between July of 2019 and October of 2021. So a big increase in the number of cases, which we have been working to take care of. And of course, also during that time, we did the transition from St. Francis over to the state of Nebraska. So here to help me today to talk about some of these issues is going to be Stephanie Beasley, who's our director for the Division of Children and Family Services at the state of Nebraska, and Dr. Alger Studstill, who is, he's over here too, sorry. I thought you guys were going to be both like opposite sides or something there, sorry. Yeah, I know, you moved on me, Alger. So anyway, Alger is the Deputy Director for Child Protection and Safety at the Department of Health and Human Services, or Children and Family Services. So they're going to be talking here in a moment. We certainly have seen this impact, and that's why the state has taken action. So I mentioned the nearly 30% increase in the number of kids, it's actually 29.9, children in cases coming into the state. We also have dedicated more resources to be able to handle that. So we used about $20 million in our carryover from 2021 into this year to help address that. And we put about $10 million in ARPA funds to be able to help address that increase in the number of kids we see in the system as well. We also know that we want to make sure that we have the appropriate number of caseworkers being able to help with that as well, so increase caseworker pay by about 20% as well, and that's helped us reduce our attrition rate. So prior to doing the pay increase, our attrition rate was about 4.75%. Now I think at a monthly rate, we're running about 3.7%. We'd, on average, had gotten that down to, in the 9 months after we made the pay increase, it was 3.1%. So that was one of the ways that we were able to help make sure we had the caseworkers. Right now, I think we have a total of Okay, I'm going to look for this specific number because I don't even think we wrote it down. 598 open positions and 542 filled, so about an 8.3% vacancy rate. Is that right?
Yeah,
49 open positions. I know.
49 open positions.
49 open positions.
Yes.
Whatever math makes 49 work, that's what we're at. 49 open positions. So about 8.3% vacancy rate right now in Children and Family Services. So, and then we also know, for example, that it's had an impact on children's mental well-being. And that's why the state has dedicated $10 million to Children's Hospital for their mental health facilities, $10 million of ARPA funds going to Emmanuel CHI, and $10 million to Boys Town, all with those at the idea of improving mental health care facilities for kids. So those are all some of the steps we've taken. Oh, I got it written down right here. 591 child welfare positions, 49 are open. All right. And, oh, here's a good stat. Since March, we've hired 100 new hires in the Eastern Service area. So congratulations on all the hiring there. So anyway, so we're taking steps to be able to take care of kids here in the state. And Stephanie and Alger are going to talk a little bit more about that. And then we'll come back and sign the welfare for Child Welfare Worker Development Month. So with that, Stephanie.
All right, thank you, Governor. I am delighted to be here to recognize the great work done by our child welfare team here in Nebraska. Some of them are here today, and really phenomenal. They, every day, are improving the lives of children and families across Nebraska. I want to send a thank you to really all of our child welfare teammates across the state. Your commitment to Nebraska's children and families provides so much love and support to so many. The important work of the child welfare team is reflected in many of the outcomes that the governor just highlighted. Nebraska continues to rank in the top 10 states for the well-being of children as measured by Casey Family Programs, a national leader in this field. The work of our team supports a focus on children and families served in the communities where they live. I think it's also important to note that there are also many other providers who are not case managers, but they're key partners in our success for kids and families. We're continuing to look at transformation and a culture shift to embrace a way of improving our work with kids and families by serving prevention rather than intervention. Crucial to this is the implementation of Families First Prevention Services Act. The Family First Prevention Services Act, or FFPSA, is opening new doors for us to provide critical supports and services to Nebraskans that need them most. I'm excited to announce that actually effective October 1st, we will begin launching and even expanding some of our current programs like Family-Centered Treatment, which is a 4-month home-based trauma treatment program working to identify core issues that families face within the home, increasing positive parenting skills and providing therapeutic services to address mental health needs. We have Healthy Families America expansion happening again on October 1. This is a home visiting program for new and expecting parents and families with children who are at risk for maltreatment. We have trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy launching, which is a therapeutic program for children and adolescents with symptoms associated with trauma exposure. And we have Families Unite Us, which is a family-centered intervention working to prevent substance abuse and risky sexual behavior amongst Hispanic adolescents and empowering parents by enhancing communication and improving parenting skills. In addition to these programs launching October 1, we'll have 2 more phases of expansion of our service array here in Nebraska, really intended and directed at a broad array of prevention services for kids and families in our state. Besides FFPSA implementation, we have also committed to intentional improvements and program development that highlight partnerships with stakeholders, families, and community. One of the many ways that this is demonstrated is through our efforts in prevention and strategic transformation work across the state. Across the state, there are 22 community collaboratives under the Bring Up Nebraska initiative, providing central navigation and resources to families that focus on well-being and families staying safe and intact in their own communities. And in fact, our own First Lady is key in that leadership and shepherding this effort. The Thriving Families Initiative has expanded on that work to bring additional federal technical assistance and investment into Nebraska to support prevention strategies and structures that are based in communities focusing on access, innovation, and well-being outcomes. Over the last 18 months, we have brought together a coalition of multiple stakeholders and partners, including persons with lived experience, to really focus on Nebraska's core principles and values and ways that we can deepen our efforts to prevention of maltreatment and breaking down silos to ensure families receive the exact service they need at the exact time that they need it. Up next, I would like to introduce Dr. Studstill, who is really shepherding our team in protection and safety, and once again, thank our team that is here today. All of the work that is described, and that is helping Nebraskan families succeed and Nebraska be in the top 10, is really built on the work of our child welfare workforce and our partners who are doing this incredible work and effort across our state. And so very grateful for the governor for recognizing the effort today and really every day on the work that is being done. So up next, Alger.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you, Governor Ricketts, for issuing this proclamation and renewing your commitment to child welfare teammates across Nebraska. I would also like to personally thank all of the amazing child welfare teammates that I not only get the opportunity to serve every day, but also those that have yet to enter the field. Being the Deputy Director for Protection and Safety, I'm in a unique position that allows me to work closely with child welfare teammates not only at DHHS, but in partner agencies and nonprofits. Today, we have some of our teammates with us, RJ Wallenberg, who is one of our supervisors, Kayla Drummond and Christina Zermino, who are two of our case workers in the field and do extraordinary work. Working in child welfare is often a thankless yet critical job. Before I became Deputy Director for Protection and Safety, I myself worked on the front lines of child welfare. I made so many memories and friendships that stick with me to this day. Despite challenges, seeing the impact that I was able to make on children and families every day provided a spark for me to further my career and become the person that I am today. It is my duty to aid and support our child welfare teammates that need it and to work along our team to ensure that we're training the next generation. As many of you probably know, there is a constant need for more child welfare workers. In order to fulfill staffing requirements during a period of worker shortages, the division has increased its effort to find qualified applicants. Child welfare leaders are working in conjunction with our HR partners to continually host in-person and virtual hiring events, which allow for interviews and job offers to happen on the spot. It's nothing like going to an interview and having to wait weeks and months to find out. We're able to make job offers the day someone does an interview. These efforts have shown great success, especially in the Eastern Service area, where we have been able to hire 105 new staff just between the months of March and July of this year. The DHHS Human Resources team is implementing monthly focus initiatives such as Thank a Teammate Month and Mission Month. These initiatives help to bolster teammate morale across the state, and each of our local leadership teams have also implemented action plans based on teammate engagement surveys, which were completed last year, to help facilitate regular stay interviews and also host teammate appreciation events several times throughout the year to make sure our teammates understand we don't just recognize them once a year, but this is an ongoing valuing of who they are. We will continue to grow our outreach to Nebraskans interested in working in child welfare, and I encourage anyone that's interested to visit statejobs.nebraska.gov. Thank you, and I will turn it back over to Governor Ricketts.
All right, thank you, Alger, but you just kind of left my desk a mess here. You just left all your notes here. Well, I don't know, stuff, okay. Stephanie did the same thing. You know, we do have a proclamation here we have to sign. All right, well, hey, folks, thank you both very much for being here today to talk about the great work we're doing in child welfare. And again, I want to add my thanks to our child welfare specialists here. RJ, okay, so which one's Kayla? Kayla and Kristen? Christy, okay, great. Well, thank you very much for what you do for our children here in Nebraska. And thanks to all of our child welfare specialists who help take care of our children here. Just like our educators, they're doing wonderful work, and we can see that in the numbers. So we really appreciate work, which is one of the reasons why we are here today to sign this proclamation declaring Child Welfare Workforce Development Month here in Nebraska. So with my signature, we are official. the official proclamation here. Stephanie, if I'd ask you to hold on to that, please. Thank you. And with that, again, we will go focus on questions and answers on this topic. And then when we exhaust those, we'll move on to other topics. So questions on this? Martha?
You mentioned hiring 100 new people in the Eastern Service area, but the August report on caseloads shows that only 40% have caseloads within the state, within what the state law requires, which is no better than St. Francis was doing. Can you talk about how you're going to change that?
Yeah, so Martha asked the question, we talked about, hey, we've hired 105 people since March, but we still have 40% of our case managers have caseloads that are in excess of what statute requires. What are we doing to address it? I think that one of the things we have to remember is one of the reasons why we discontinued our contract with St. Francis is because they were doing such a poor job of keeping up with that hiring case managers. So we started behind the eight ball with regard to getting case managers. And as you know, we've had historic unemployment, low unemployment rates, or we've had historically high employment, low unemployment rates here in Nebraska. In fact, throughout 2020, 2021, and through most of 2022, Nebraska has averaged the lowest unemployment rate in the country. As I mentioned, we've hit historical lows, not only for Nebraska, but for the nation. So we're challenged, just like every other organization, to hire people. So I think that Alger and Stephanie and the team there have done a great job to get those 105 folks hired. But obviously, we're going to continue to do more to be able to get case managers. As I mentioned, we're short 49 right now, so we still have more work to do, which is why Alger is telling people, hey, this is a great job, and if you have an interest, please contact the state of Nebraska because we want to hire you. And Alger, I don't know if you have anything else, or Stephanie, anything else you want to add?
So I think another really important point to note is that we have a lengthy training process. We really want to equip our team on working directly with kids and families. We want them to have the right skills, right tools, right competencies, right understanding of the importance of this work and how to conduct it at the highest level. We partner with CCFL and UNL to do that. We do not, when someone comes out of training, hand them a full caseload on the very first day. We'll hand them a few cases. And then over time, we continue to grow their caseload. So while we have more than 100 people at various stages of onboarding since the transition of the contract to DHHS, they will not be carrying full caseloads yet. We certainly want to equip them and ramp them up and onboarding. And the hiring is not over. We continue to onboard and really look for persons who want to make an impact in kids and families' life and bring them on board and train them. But again, it takes time. But what you'll see in our most recent caseload report is that there has been marked improvement in our caseload compliance, and we'll continue to get there.
Anything else to add, Alger?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
How many of those 100 that were hired in the Eastern Service Unit used to work for St. Francis?
So Paul asked, how many of those 100 that we hired used to work for St. Francis?
So I'll take that one. So all of the 105 that have been hired since March are brand new hires to the department. When the decision was made to transition the contract, all of those current employees of St. Francis were offered, teammates were offered employment with the department. So those individuals that transitioned over are not a part of this 105 new teammates that have onboarded since March.
And Alger, do you remember off the top of your head, how many of those St. Francis folks made the transition over to the state? It's a pretty high number.
200.
Right, about 205.
About 205 total came over from
And
St.
that was like
Francis.
90% roughly, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So we kept about 90% of the folks from St. Francis in the transition. And actually, again, I just want to compliment Alger, Stephanie, and the team for the smooth transition of that. And that's one of the reasons why I think we kept so many folks. Yeah, Andrew.
How has that transition gone, and was it faster than what you expected? Did the state save any additional money in the way you did the transition from St. Francis?
So Andrew asked, how did the transition from St. Francis go? Was it faster than you thought? Did we save any additional money than we thought? I will tell you that, from my perspective, I think the transition went very well, that The team did a great job of integrating the St. Francis folks into our team. And so I'm very, very pleased. With regard to the specifics, again, I think part of, if you're thinking about, do we save money, we just covered that we were bringing a lot more kids into the system, so it'd be hard to kind of separate all that out. But I will let Stephanie take a shot at, her thoughts on the transition.
Thanks, Governor. The transition actually was really successful. The contract actually ended on June 30th, and so we're still working out some final pieces of the transition. But when the cases were transitioning to us, the St. Francis team and our team, they were convening prior to the transition over. Every case was reviewed. We had our partners from guardian ad litems to the foster care review office at the table. Every case was successfully staffed, and we were really looking at, are the family and children continuing to be supported? What would this look like, and how do we create the most success to ensure that families and children were the highest priority? All of those cases transitioned really by April. We had all cases over to us. The contracts began transitioning. So we just a few weeks ago were in Omaha meeting with our providers, meeting with guardian ad litems, CASAs, et cetera. And we saw a lot of success in the transition and got a lot of positive feedback. We still have learnings and trainings that we're doing and helping grow the team there on DHHS processes, because they look a little different than St. Francis processes. But overall, I think it has been a tremendous success. We continue to learn and grow, not just in the Eastern Service area, but across the state. Our goal is to really have the key focus for kids and families across the board at all times, so as our priority. So I feel like it's been a great success. That's the feedback we've received, but certainly we're always open to hearing how we can do things better.
So, did I hear you right, the caseload compliance is better than 60% now, or non-compliance?
So the exact number for caseload compliance is 71% across the state. What you'll see on our website is that we every month are measuring our improvement in caseload compliance. And so we were all green in this last month. Every service area has improved compliance. We have a ready number of people that we are working to hire and onboard. Governor certainly, talked about the high unemployment rate. So our recruitment efforts are fast and furious, and this is my plug that anybody who is interested in a position to change kids' lives, come on, give us a chance, talk to us about what you're looking for. But ultimately, caseload compliance has improved in every service area and across the state.
Is there a website where you can go find that information?
It's actually on our website, and we'll make sure that you get the link to it.
So 71% across the state, what about in Eastern Service?
38? I think we're at 38% caseload compliance. Again, remember, while we have hired quite a few teammates, many of them remain in training, or they are only going to be carrying 1 to 4 cases as they are on board and building their skills. And we're building their knowledge and their understanding. So we would not increase their caseloads. So we have some seasoned teammates who continue to carry higher caseloads. Dr. Studstill and the leadership in the Eastern Service area and across the state have really worked hard to ensure that those case managers are supported. And we have a lot of ancillary staff who are really trying to help out with those teammates. They do incredible work. Even though their caseloads are higher than what we want, they are being supported in the best way that we can while we're onboarding the new teammates.
The training period is lengthy, how lengthy?
14 weeks.
Oh, repeat the questions, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Governor. The question was, how long does training for a new case manager in Nebraska child welfare last? And it's at 14 weeks.
Would they get a full caseload after 14 weeks, or you get a
So,
supplemental?
repeat the question again.
The question is, how does the caseload get ramped up? So at 14 weeks, they do not get a full caseload. They are given a few cases, and then we will steadily increase as we see their competency, skills, and knowledge and comfort in increasing their caseload. Our intent is to really support the teammates as they are learning some pretty complicated jobs. I think you'll have some nodding heads up here in the front row. This is certainly complex work. It's powerful, amazing work, but it is complex and there is a lot to learn. And so we really do try to build their competencies and skills before we hand them too many cases.
Andrew?
It sounds like some of the kids in especially the Eastern Service area had multiple caseworkers. 50% had 5 or more, and yet 70% had over 10 or more. I mean, have you been able to address that, I guess, and what kind of problems is that?
Yeah, so Andrew's asking, in the Eastern Service area, it looked, according to the data, it looked like there were kids who had multiple caseworkers, maybe 5 or more, maybe some cases 10 or more, and are we working to address that? And again, that gets back to one of the things, and I'll let Stephanie take a crack at this as well. But I think it gets back to, again, one of the reasons why we moved away from St. Francis. We were not pleased with the way they were managing the Eastern Service area. They were not hiring people fast enough to be able to keep up with the caseloads and the demand. And so one of the things we've done is, again, increase the pay by 20%, and that has helped us reduce our attrition rate. So when you can keep your attrition rate down, that means you're holding on to people, and you can have more stability for those kids so that they can keep the same case manager. So, and I'll let Stephanie pick up.
I would just second, certainly, when the governor committed to the pay increase for our CFSS, I think that goes a long way to allow us to be a competitive employer in this arena. Certainly, that has been a huge impact on our retention of staff. And our goal is to have consistency in our case managers. Certainly, changing case managers is not beneficial for the family. The case manager knows the case, knows the family, knows the child and what they need. So our goal is stability. But we are seeing a decrease in our turnover rates. Again, the efforts around hiring, the efforts that Dr. Studstill and the team have around supporting the teammates, recognition programs. We have a tuition reimbursement program.
Wellness programs.
Yep, wellness programs. It's really an investment in our team that does really great work that we're already seeing dividends in. And ultimately, that will impact our stability in case managers, which is right for kids and families and a good thing.
So, I'm sorry, Andrew, you're saying how much what costs?
How much did that incentive package, cost, and how are we paying for that? Is that out of general budget?
Yeah, so overall, when we saw the increase in caseloads and so forth, we've added about $30 million. $20 million was carryover from the 2021 fiscal year, and then we put about $10 million from ARPA in. Is that right? Okay, good. Yeah, good. Got that one right. Martha.
Can you talk a little bit, explain how child welfare plays into the NE-Casey numbers? Because those numbers have to do with all children in Nebraska, not just the ones in the child welfare system.
Yeah, so Martha asked, the NE Casey's Kids Count book applies to all children in Nebraska, not just the ones in child welfare. So how does child welfare play into the 16 different things that they measure in that case count data book? So I will turn that over to Stephanie.
Awesome, thank you. I think one of the key pieces, certainly it is a great evaluation of indicators and well-being indicators for kids and families in each state. We are great partners in that work, and it looks sometimes like funding prevention programs, and sometimes it looks like designing a service array in partnership with other providers and stakeholders like the court to look at trends and see what families and young people are experiencing, and then designing our system, which includes prevention programs and service array. One of the other things that we really do and have a great success in our economic assistance programs and our employment readiness programs and employment and training. And so we are focused on well-being indicators for kids and families, and oftentimes those are economic indicators, and Children and Family Services certainly has a key focus and the benefit of knowing firsthand what our data is for kids and families in the arena as well. So it's a whole approach with partners and stakeholders from the community collaboratives through Bring Up Nebraska, who have a very wonderful pulse on what's happening across our state, to the Children's Commission, to our courts, to law enforcement. It really is this coordinated design around what's right for kids and families, and how do we keep them safe, well, and healthy in the communities where they live.
You also want to mention we got an award in January 2020 from the Caseload Foundation?
This was prior to my time.
Oh, okay. Well,
This
we can
was,
still take
but
credit for it. We're here now.
it was prior to my time, and the First Lady really, Bring Up Nebraska has been a partnership across the state with community collaboratives that have had a focus on well-being for children and families. And this well-being encompasses education, economic, housing, food security. It's a broad understanding that each family has individualized needs. And we can do a lot as a community partners to invest in families, to invest in community. And so we have a national partner, Casey Family Programs, really phenomenal national partner across and helping every state and our nation recognize the work of Nebraska and Bring Up Nebraska initiative and effort in pulling together community partners. It's the great thing about Nebraska is this sense of community, and that here we have so many partners willing to come to the table and help us solve big problems for kids and families. And the Bring Up Nebraska framework has really given us a lot of national attention. And honestly, I believe that that is a key reason why we have seen indicators improve for children and families in Nebraska.
Yeah, so again, Martha, I think it just gets back to, we've got great communities, which I mentioned at the top of the program. We got great place for kids to grow up, activities, zoo, all the sorts of things, schools, everything. We just look again at the effort that educators made throughout the pandemic to get kids in classrooms here in Nebraska. I think that's part of one of the reasons why we have such a great place for kids. Andrew.
What's our, what's our goals for permanency for some of these kids, and have we improved those?
So Andrew's asking about goals for permanency and what have we improved those. And Stephanie, I will turn it over to either you or Alger for the specific numbers, because we do have goals specifically around getting kids into permanent situations within a certain, like within 2 years or something like that, I think is the goal. But I'll let you guys talk about the specifics.
I'm going to do a high level, then I'm going to kick this to Dr. Studstill. We do have goals specific to permanency. Permanency for young people can be reunification with the family of origin. It could be a guardianship. It could be an adoption. There are times when kids and families, when we cannot safely reunite a child to their family of origin, and so we are looking for an alternative to reunification. And so our goal is to expedite permanency as well. So we have some young people who are doing independent living services, and they are going into our older youth supportive programs, and we're looking for employment readiness, education, et cetera. But individualized permanency for every child is based on the best interest of that child and the ability whether or not we can reunify. We do have goals. Our goal is within 12 months, although there are times in which that cannot happen, and so we have set metrics that are measured. And I'll let Andrew or Alger talk about that a little bit.
Awesome. As Stephanie mentioned, our goal is to reach permanency within 12 months. And if we're not able to reach permanency within 12 months, then to really work to get to permanency within 24 months. And overall, the state of Nebraska does an amazing job. Every month we get a report from each of our service areas, and the team is able to reunify well over 100 children every month. But then also looking at making sure that we have other pieces in place to ensure a child is available for adoption if that's the permanency goal. And so that's working with our county attorney partners, working with our legal partners to ensure that if a child is in care longer than 12 months, especially at that 15-month out of 22 months, that we're really looking at, are we able to go down the track of termination of parental rights, which allows for a child to be available for adoption. And so each of our local areas across the state, we do permanency reviews. We've actually, because of our work, we've been asked by our federal partners to be a part of a project as it relates to engaging youth in permanency. So really making sure that our young people are engaged in the permanency work, that they have a voice in the things that's happening to them. And so Nebraska has done an amazing job. This is one of the areas that we saw significant improvement on, which allowed for our federal partners to give us a passing grade, if you will, and release us from our CFSR, which is our Child and Family Services Review, our performance improvement plan last year, because we were able to meet all of those federal metrics that are required, which includes permanency.
One more question on the topic. Paul.
The Attorney General's now looking into some reporting out of Kansas that same
So Paul's asking, the St. Francis is being investigated, there's questions of fraud and so forth, and should the state get money back from that? We'll let the Attorney General or the other officials that are investigating this handle that part. You know, as far as we're concerned, we wanted to just make the transition way with St. Francis in the best interest of the kids, and I think that's what we've done here in the state of Nebraska. Stephanie Alger and the team have just done a great job of making that transition, and that's what we're going to focus on is those kids. All right. Thank you very much, Stephanie Alger. Thank you very much. And so how much time we got left for additional questions? We got just a couple of a little bit of time left for other topics. Everybody's got them. I'm not seeing any. Paul?
So I had a story last week about Sync Health not getting paid for their services. Do you have a plan to get them some money? I mean, they handle the monitoring of prescription drugs. It's intended to avoid opioids.
Right. So Paul's asking a question about Sync Health and their contract to get paid to perform the PDMP, our prescription drug monitoring program, as well as our health information exchange, which is what exchanges the health information back and forth between providers. And the issue is that with regard to the PDMP, Sync Health is getting paid and will continue to pay through the end of the year. And with regard to the HEI, the health information, or HIE, the health information exchange, the federal government cut back their percentage of what they were paying for that, and so we did not have the money appropriated to be able to pay Sync Health, and we are going to seek a deficit request next year to be able to do that, but the fact of the matter is, there's just no money to pay them because enough money was not appropriated in the budget, so we're gonna have to go back and ask for a deficit request, and Sync Health is well aware of this. They've received several letters to that effect that we're committed to going back and asking for that deficit request, but it'll have to wait until January.
So, but the letter also said that the state probably dropped the ball here. They should have been aware that this money was going away. Should have been able to fulfill their contract.
Apparently Sync Health is making a characterization that the state should have known better, and I just say that's just not true. That's just, like, again, if you can predict with accuracy what the federal government is going to do, I want you in my team. Like, it's just not accurate to say that we should have known better. All right, folks, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. Thank you very much, team. Great job. We're going to take a picture.